Welcome to Impact on Ohio, the series where we highlight Ohio leaders from the State House to the U.S. Capitol. We sit down with dedicated public servants to tackle the issues that matter most to Ohio businesses. Brought to you by the Ohio Chamber of Commerce, the state's leading business advocate. We aggressively champion free enterprise, economic competitiveness, and growth for the benefit of all Ohioans. Stay tuned for insightful conversations that will shape the future of Ohio's business landscape. Get ready for Impact on Ohio, where business meets leadership, because Ohio's success is everyone's success. Welcome to Impact on Ohio. I'm Steve Stivers, President and CEO of the Ohio Chamber of Commerce. Today on Impact on Ohio, we're lucky to have Congressman Troy Balderson with us to talk about a lot of the issues of the day. How you doing, Troy?
I'm fantastic, Congressman. It's really awkward or funny to be sitting here across from you now in these different roles. So great to be here, Steve. Thank you for having me.
We're excited to have you, and tell our viewers a little bit about you, why you first ran for office. You served in the Ohio House and the Ohio Senate, and you've been in Congress now for 6 years, 7 years?
No, don't push it that far. No, only 5 years.
Only 5 years.
I'm on my 5th year, so
Okay,
don't make it faster than what
sorry.
it should be. Well, I mean, I've not been the typical path to get in the political world for sure. So back in 2006, 2007, I was going to do something different. I had been in the family business for a long time, and thought it was time for a change. And I was approached about running for state representative. The representative that was serving at the time, Jim Aslanidis, was term limited in about a year and a half. So, you know, it's always the best when it's something that you didn't plan on doing. And again, even as you know, some folks started talking to me about it and you know, running for office, I wasn't there yet. But I thought, you know what? Challenge yourself. Get outside your comfort zone here. See if you can make changes. Being in the automobile business, obviously customer service is very important, and one of the main things to keep your business going is taking care of customers. And I really enjoyed that part of it, making sure that people were taken care of, addressing their needs, you know, whether, you know, their car broken down or arranging transportation for them. So, you know, moving into that, that's what politics is about to me too. It's taking care of your constituents and making sure that you address their needs, listen to what's happening with them. And that's why I ran for office. And I wanted to be able to reflect to other kids that if you want to do something, circle yourself with people that love you and care about you, and get outside your comfort zone. And it's a wonderful thing.
I love that analogy out of the family business with customer service, because that is really what public service is all about. And you've really created a robust constituent service operation in your congressional office, and you've sought committees that matter to your constituents. You're now on the powerful Energy and Commerce Committee that deals with the entire energy sector, all of the business decisions in the country, healthcare and telecom, environment. So, and you're on a few important subcommittees.
Yeah.
Tell our listeners which subcommittees you're on.
So I'm on the Energy Committee, I'm on the Environment Subcommittee, and also on the Telecom Subcommittee. And it's really neat for me too, because two of the chairmen of those subcommittees are from Ohio too. Bill Johnson's the subcommittee chairman of the Environment Committee, and then Bob Latta is the chairman for the Telecom Committee. So that makes it more interesting. You know, going back to the Energy and Commerce Committee, as you said, it is the largest jurisdictional committee in Congress. We worked really hard to get on there. Had a lot of headwinds to get through to get on that committee. There was 2 Ohioans. People talked about that you know, there had never really been 3 Ohioans on one committee, especially the Energy and Commerce Committee. But again, we put a plan in place. We worked with that plan, made adjustments along the way, and we're fortunate enough to get on the committee.
When they talk about the jurisdiction of the Energy and Commerce Committee, I believe they say if it moves, it's energy, and if it doesn't, it's commerce.
Commerce,
So
correct.
you have jurisdiction over essentially everything
Yes.
in the economy. Recently, there was an article about how difficult things have become with the reliability of the electric grid with the increase of demand and a lot of base load power coming offline. Can you help us understand, is the Energy and Commerce Committee dealing with that issue, and how are they dealing with it?
It's one of the biggest issues that's out there. I mean, you know, we talk about the grid stability. I mean, it's actually going to be a crisis if we don't start addressing this now. and we've started on that. Jeff Duncan is the chairman of the Energy Subcommittee. That's predominantly where we are taking these issues up. This is something throughout the country that is in conversation, and people are actually starting to talk about it now. Even constituents, it's on their radar as to what's going on and what's happening. Obviously, here in Ohio, we're a big exporter of energy. We're very fortunate here in southeastern and eastern Ohio to have one of the biggest shale plays in the country. And then you move over to Pennsylvania and West Virginia, it comes into the Marcellus side of it. So just on those 3 states alone, we're one of the biggest exporters of energy in the country and the world. So, we're trying to address that, making sure that people have an understanding of what that is. The PGM report that just came out recently too was something that was addressing the need for the grid stability, but also, this movement of moving too fast to get renewable energy in place, shutting down baseload energy plants quicker than what we really should be doing to make sure that we are able to keep the lights burning. And and I think that's what is more exciting for me is the American people are starting to see that. And I say the American people, but also the people in the state of Ohio are having an understanding of that, of what it means. We can do all the above, but we still have to have that baseload energy that we know that we can go and turn that light switch on and they're going to be there. And that's nuclear, coal, and natural gas. Those are the big players.
I think in the energy business, they call that dispatchable power.
Dispatchable power, that's a great,
turn
yeah.
on the switch, it comes no matter what. And, the sun doesn't always shine and the wind doesn't always blow. And so until we get some battery backup on some of those, they're not going to be base load capacity. They're important transitions, but they're not quite ready for base load, which means your light switch might not come on if we don't have dispatchable power. So I think that's something that you're talking a lot about, working through, and I think it's important as we've seen a lot of development in Ohio. We've gotten, every time I open the paper, there's a new data center. There was a new data center announced for New Albany last week. I think that's 7 or 8 that have been announced.
Yeah.
And those are big power users. Does that compound with the big demand and Intel and all that? Does that compound this sustainability issue?
Oh, it makes it, our system much more fragile. And that's what we're trying to direct, is making sure that we're available for that. So, I mean, for me, it's exciting. With a lot of this new data transition that's happening with these companies is happening in the 12th Congressional District. We're very fortunate and blessed to have that happening there. But it's also time for that conversation to start happening, making sure that we can not only provide electricity and power to those data facilities, but more importantly, our constituents.
Also in the news last week was information about the brand new hydrogen hub, the Appalachian Hydrogen Hub, which is a partnership between West Virginia, Pennsylvania, and Ohio. How big a deal is that? And tell us what it means for the future.
I mean, those are some of the technologies that aren't here yet, but we have time to start working towards those. So I think that's important that we start addressing these and other ways of energy that we can have. And people are excited about that. I mean, they say, like, what is it going to be here next year? No, it's not. These are plans moving forward that we can start addressing. Obviously we talk about the natural gas and the abundance of natural gas here in Ohio. It's supposedly over 100 years. I do have to share a story. One of the best stories that I can share, we have crypto mining that's actually getting done in Coshocton County. And I found that very hard to believe, and I was very surprised by it. But I had the opportunity to go out there, visit the facility, and I talked to the gentleman that's running the facility and who started the facility. And I said, why here in Coshocton County, Ohio? And he said, because of your abundant energy that you have here. You're the cheapest in the world. And this is something that we plan to expand on. And they have purchased more property in Coshocton County as we move forward. So, I mean, we know it's here. The hydro facility is something that we can look forward to. We have plenty of water. We have plenty of natural gas. We have plenty of workforce to start looking in and building these facilities.
Yeah, the crypto mining is really kind of cool. I saw one of these where they just basically get a intermodal container and they set it down and they take natural gas straight off the grid and they use natural gas to power generators because it takes a lot of energy to do crypto mining because you have to power those really high-powered computers. Is that what they have in Coshocton County, or is it in a hard facility?
Part of it's in a hard facility, but most of it's outside. It's literally outside. Now they'll cover that at some point, but they're talking about the heat that's generated off those servers. They're going to capture that. So, I mean, another way to look at how we're using our energy. So, look, let's not cut each other short here and say, like, we can't do this, we can't do that. This is America. We are innovative. We're going to work. We're going to find solutions. We're going to make sure that we have that abundant use of energy.
That's great. And let's talk about energy costs for a little bit, because I saw a report that in last year, energy costs went up 5%, electric costs to the average consumer. With all these transitions going on and all the changes and the rules out of Washington that the administration's doing, that's taking away all the coal-fired power plants and transitioning even away from some of the natural gas power plants, will consumers see increased rate increases? Will they see higher rate increases in the near future?
Yeah, here in Ohio, we just had a pretty big rate increase. Wall Street this past weekend talked about the state of Wyoming. They're at a 32% increase. Yeah, our constituents are going to start seeing a big piece of that, and we're going to be paying for it because of this movement up too fast. And you bring up a great point, Steve, about the natural gas facilities. I mean, we could have a natural gas facility at full capacity, but then under the new EPA ruling, we've got to turn that back and switch it out to renewable. I mean, that's something that just doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me. And as you go out and talk to the people, that doesn't make sense to them either. So, making sure that we educate, communicate with our constituency, talk to our friends, and get that out there so they have an understanding of what it means and what these facilities mean to us. The Guernsey Power Plant just opened up within the last year. That's one of the largest natural gas facilities located right off Interstate 77. Looks like some big outer space thing when you're going past it, but that's a facility that can have a lot of megawatt usage, but then we'll have to turn it back to allow that renewable piece come back in, and that's just something that doesn't make a whole lot of sense to people.
You brought up the EPA rule. What can our member companies and people out there watching this do? Because it's just a proposed rule at the EPA right now. It's
Correct.
not in effect. What can they do to have their voice heard to avoid some of these big increases through this new EPA rule?
Talk to your members of Congress, obviously, your state legislators. The EPA website has an opportunity for you to have a voice there. And that's the frustrating part for me. I remember going through President Obama's administration and some of the EPA rulings that came out there, and it's just like, let's throw it on the wall and let's see what can stick. But we jeopardize our utilities when we do that, and by making sure that they come back under these guidelines and they have to make all these changes. So that uncertainty there plays a big role in our energy and our energy usage. And I think it's challenging because we as business owners here in the state of Ohio, we'll use that for an example. I mean, your energy cost is one of your biggest expenses that you have. And you try to budget for that. Now you can make changes and adapt to that. There's plans out there that business people can get onto, but these larger industrial users, it's a bigger switch for them. So they need that confidence that it's going to be not only reliable, but it's going to be cost effective. And we're not going to have all these major rule changes under each administration. So, that's something for me that Congress needs to look more at. Is to have more of an even keel into this and not have these agencies, these federal agencies, put these erroneous rules out there that we have to abide by, or even start having that conversation.
So does it surprise you, coming from an energy producing area, that America doesn't really have a national energy policy?
Oh, it's always surprised me. And look, we did that here in the state of Ohio, and I think the state should also be addressing that, and they are here in the state of Ohio. But yeah, from a national standpoint, we definitely should, and that's something that I'll continue to work on and try to get those guidelines out there. We meet with people on a weekly basis talking about the energy and the energy usage. We don't talk a lot about the infrastructure. A map was presented to me a couple weeks ago of the eastern portion of the United States and the lack of transmission that's going to these northeast states. So, I mean, there's a lot of work that needs to be done.
One last question, unrelated to energy. Obviously, Israel and Hamas are in a shooting war now. Do you expect Congress to send aid to Israel to help during the war?
Congress is definitely with Israel. They're always going to be with Israel. When we go back this week, we're going to start looking at some resolutions under the leadership of the new Speaker of the House, Mike Johnson. So, Congress is all in. We're behind Israel. Yeah, there's some people out there, fractions that, aren't necessarily there, and have some issue with it, but the majority of Congress, I mean, 90% of it is there. And, something that I think is important too, and we do it here in Central Ohio, the Jewish community is communicating. And I think that's important. And they're emphasizing the importance of this and what it means. And that helps us. I have a really good understanding of what Israel means and how important of an ally. I mean, it's the U.S.'s best ally that we have out there. And Israel has to defend itself, and we have to make sure that America make sure that they get everything that we can give them and help them, making sure that they do survive. And the majority of Congress completely agrees with that.
Because you brought him up, just a quick observation. There's a new speaker in Washington, Mike Johnson. What's your impression? He's been at the job about a week.
He's been at the job, done great so far, but it's a weekend. But I'm really excited for Mike and the opportunities that he has. He's no one knew who he was, and what better way to come into a role that no one really knows who you are. I think that gives him a really good leadership perspective and what he can do. He's really even keel, which I think is important to have in that role. And he's very smart, and he's just. I'm going to say it again. The even keelness, the temperament that he has, it's perfect position for him for the job. And especially during these turbulent times of what we're dealing with right now and everything that's going on with Israel. There's no better time for Mike Johnson to come into this new role.
Yeah, for sure. In a leadership role, the most important thing is temperament. Somebody that can, command respect. And, the fact that he got 217 folks to vote for him is, in fact, it was unanimous.
It was 220. Yeah, you got 221.
So that's pretty good. And nobody else could even get to the minimum number. So it's a good start for sure. And it sounds like he's getting his feet wet and working hard and doing good things, and we'll all learn more about him over time.
We will, and I want the American people to know, but I also want the members of Congress. I mean, give him patience. I mean, allow him come into this new role and what it's going. It's a big job, and let him surround himself with people that will help guide him, and I'll be one of those members of Congress that'll be there for him to help him and make sure that he gets off on the right foot. And support him all the way. But we just got to make sure that we, the American people do the exact same thing. And the people of the 12th Congressional District, I've had great outreach with a lot of folks so far since last week when he was made the Speaker of the House. And there's a lot of excitement out there with Mike Johnson.
That's great. Well, thank you for your leadership in Congress. Thanks for those inspiring words. And I think it's going to be an interesting and exciting time. You guys have no shortage of issues in front of you.
No.
Thanks for everything you're doing on the Energy and Commerce Committee. And thanks for your friendship for Ohio business.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Thank you.
If you have an idea for the Impact on Ohio video series, email us anytime. You can also scan the QR code to take you directly to the YouTube page and watch Impact on Ohio.